Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. Today I am going to be working on my Jade Bonsai. This tree is just 2 years old from a cutting. Let's go back in time and I'll show you the steps I took to get the tree to this stage. My next task will be to turn this large jade cutting into the start of a bonsai tree. I don't really want to touch the bottom. The cut point on the bottom is dried out after, quite a few weeks. So, if I wanted a shorter trunk, I could cut the trunk off, cut the bottom of it off here, and have a shorter trunk. But I don't want to do that because then I'd have to let that cut point dry out again for another couple of weeks. And I don't mind the height of the trunk. I think it's not that tall before you get to the first branch. So to pot the tree up, I've definitely got to take some weight off the top of the tree. Otherwise it'll just tip over in the pot. I finished defoliating the jade. There's a big pile of leaves here. And now you can see the structure of the tree much more clearly. The cutting is much lighter now. It's actually really light. There's a lot of weight in these leaves. All the water must be in the leaves because this is really light. That'll stay up in a pot, no problems. It'll look quite small in this pot, but I hope to grow it quite large someday. So there's an upright branch here that needs to be pruned off, so I'll take that one off. Planting this cutting should be fairly easy. I'll just put my drainage screens in the bottom of the pot, fill it with soil, and then I'll kind of rotate my cutting into the soil until it's stable. I'll level the soil with a spoon. Next, I have to put the cutting in the soil. The cutting is quite one-sided. You can see all the growth is on this side. So when it's in the pot, I'll put this side towards the sun. So the sun will be shining on this side. So we'll get some branching coming out this side of the tree. I'll offset it just slightly, maybe it off to here. And I'm going to bury it quite deep to about there. See how that looks. If you ever want to make a tree look small, put it in a giant pot like this. It looks like a little tiny stick in here. And this is quite a large cutting. If this cutting was just freshly taken off a plant and the bottom was green, you definitely would want that cut to dry out before you planted and watered it. But this one is dried out really nicely, so I can water it. So here I go. The cutting is quite firm in the pot, but I will place some stones around it just to make sure, if I accidentally bump the pot or something, that it's still held in here securely. I kept the cutting out of the rain. I just misted it. I kept the soil quite dry. And now the roots are kind of established. The plant is sitting upright. The reason it looks windswept is that I've been growing it near the window and all the growth has been reaching for the window side of the plant room. So I'll have to change it around and kind of balance it out so it doesn't look like a windswept jade. So it looks like it's quite stable in the pot without any rocks around it. Yeah. So I'll remove these rocks. They don't need to be here. If it's going to be a really large base on this jade, I probably don't want branches down low. I just want to show off that big thick trunk. So I'm thinking that a lot of the lower branches can be removed. I'm going to remove this lowest branch now, and I'll just prune it as flush as I can for now, and then I'll clean it up later. So here I go. Just like that. I'll come over here now, and I'm going to take this other branch off here, this low one here. Nice flush cut, so here I go. Like that. Another nice cutting. And then I'll come out front and take that little shoot off. And I'll just come in with the scissors. And off it goes. I think the rest of the work on this tree will be more of a profile prune. Just pruning back the longer branches to kind of keep it growing compact so it doesn't take up a lot of space on the bench and so it doesn't get too side heavy and, puts a lot of pressure on the trunk to tip over. You want to keep all your center of weight over the top of the trunk to keep the tree balanced. So it's getting a little long on these side branches. So I'll be pruning those back. Today I got my jades cleaned up, I got my forest all cleaned up, and my large single cutting. The other jade, this was the cutting Joey gave me. It rooted and it's been growing really well, and then there's more cuttings off of it down there, and slowly it created a forest. So I think it's done really well this year, and I think that's going to need pruning back. Some very hard pruning. We're back to present day time, Christmas Day 2020. And as you can see, the pot is still really large for the size of the tree, but the tree is slowly growing and it doesn't look as ridiculous as it did when I first planted the cutting. When I first planted this cutting, I had the other view as the front. I had the trunk coming up to a Y shape, and then I had a branch in the back. But I'm thinking now, this view looks as good or maybe even better. Having the back branches now the front main leader, and having the two Y-shaped branches towards the rear. It looks okay either way, but I think I'll make this the front now. I'm going to prune the tree up today, and you might be asking, it's looking really good. Why would I want to prune it? Why don't I just leave it the way it is? And the answer is I'm pruning it for the future. A lot of the branches are becoming really long and they're becoming heavy out at the tips, and eventually they'll start sagging and possibly even break. So I want to bring the tree in more compact, develop more branch structure. That'll make the trunk look thicker. It'll bring the tree in more compact, so it's a smaller tree, and it should look more miniature. I'm going to start the pruning around the back, and I'll prune up the little cuttings first. So let's rotate the tree around. Here's a view of all the cuttings in the back, and all these cuttings are off of the main tree. Last time I pruned it, I took several large cuttings. I tried to give them away, but no one wanted them. No one ever wants jade cuttings for some reason, I guess because they root so easily. So I planted them, and I've got a bit of a mini forest here. So I'm taking a look at the cuttings, and I think we'll start with this one in the middle. You can see it's got this branch off to the side that's getting really, really long. That needs to be pruned back. The branch has lots of movement in it. It comes up, it's been pruned once, pruned again. So I'm just going to keep that movement in it, and I'll prune it right to here. So now I have more cuttings. I don't want to plant any more in here. Maybe one more, but yeah, I don't want this to become a giant thick forest. So that gets that branch pruned up. I have a shoot growing up at the base of this tree here. I don't want this to be a multi-trunk jade, so I'm going to prune that shoot off. I have a branch over here that's getting quite long, so I need to prune that one back. I'll come right back to here, like that. I have a shoot that's getting quite tall at the back here, so I'll want to prune that back, and I think I'm going to come back to here. That'll keep that tree more compact. The tree on the left-hand side is getting quite tall. The branches are getting long, so that needs pruning back also. I want it to fit under the branch of the main tree here. So I'm going to prune it back. I'll show you what it looks like in the front view. There's a front view of it, and you can see it's getting tall. I'd rather it shorter so it sits underneath this branch here. So I'll prune that back now. I'll just prune the branches back to make them more compact. Like that. And I'll come back to here. And the upright one can come back to here. I think this one's still a little tall, so I'll take it back even further to there. And then there's a branch out front. I think I can reduce it back to here. I think I'm going to have to take this one back a little further too, to there. So that makes that a lot more compact. It fits underneath this branch now. I had a look at all these back trees from the front view, and I'm still not happy with them. I think I've got to do some more pruning. So I don't like this one branch that comes out front here. So I'm going to remove that entirely. So here I go. Like that. And then I like this as the leader. I don't like this branch over here. It kind of curves in towards the main tree, so I'm going to remove this one entirely also. Like that. And then I'm going to shorten that one a little more. I'm going to take the top off here. Like that. So that's got the main leader in check of that tree, but it's still a little tall out back. So I'm going to reduce that further. So I'll take it off right back down to here. Like that. So it's a very small, compact tree now. And I'll have to do the same for the others, I think. I want to get those a little more compact too. I want everything to fit together nicely. I don't want them kind of all leaning in towards each other. Right now they're not fitting together the greatest. I think I'll take off a branch here. These two trees at the back here are kind of converging. They kind of lean towards each other. I don't like that. I'm going to try and correct that a bit. That's a little better. I think that'll do for the back trees. So let's start pruning up the main tree now. I want to style this tree in a African style because the jades are native to Africa. And jades in nature don't really grow into giant trees. They can grow sort of a tree-like form, but they're more of a bush. So the only tree, a succulent tree that's kind of grows into a giant tree is the giant African Baobab tree. So I think I want that type of a styling in this jade to kind of mimic a giant African Baobab. So it'll have a big thick trunk and, you know, highly tapered branches and a crown on top. And that's kind of the style it is initially anyway, so I'll just go with that. So keeping the canopy compact and developing that trunk thicker. So today I'll be, reducing back all the long branches, getting the tree more compact and getting more back budding, which gives you more choices of branches in the future and just further refine the tree until it becomes a magnificent old jade. I'll place my hand in front of the tree and kind of give me an idea of where I want the canopy. So probably something like that. Quite a bit more compact. So these branches out front here are about the height I want the canopy, and there's a large branch at the back here that's way too tall. And then I've got to make it all rounded. So I think today I'm going to do a profile pruning just to get that rounded shape to the canopy. Yeah, and I think that'll be most of the work today, is just getting that tree from this big sprawling tree down to a more compact form. And after the pruning, because it's so vigorous, I'll probably get all kinds of back budding all over the branches and the trunk, and then I can further refine the tree for the future. All right, I'll start pruning the jade now, and I'm going to do it. I'm looking at the front view here, so every now and then I'll rotate it back to show you what I'm working on. So the first thing I'm going to do is reduce this tall branch at the back here down to the height that I want the canopy, which is about here. So I'll remove the top of this, and it's best to come a little lower than you want the canopy because it's going to grow in again. And there's a fairly straight section here. I've got one back branch here. Do I want to keep that? I don't think so. I've got a fork here. I've got this branch comes up vertically, and I've got a branch to the left and one to the right. So if I took the vertical section off, I'll have subdividing on this branch so it's not so tall and straight. So that's what I'll do. I'm going to remove that top vertical section. So here I go. Just like that. Oh, it's a nice jade cutting. I might end up planting more jades. I do like them. I think they're a fantastic tree. Okay, so that got the height of that down. I'm going to tackle these branches coming out the sides now. They're too long. I want the canopy rounded and more compact, so I'll reduce those back to here. You can see when I pruned that off, the branch kind of sprung back up because the weight was reduced off the branch. You'll probably see the same thing here. So here I go. Like that. And then I've got branches out this side that are also very long. So I'll prune those back shorter. And I think I'll come back to about here. And I've got this big long one here. I'll reduce that back to here. Like that. That gets my rounded profile. I've got, I guess the spread of the crown is brought in compact. It's still too high in a lot of places, but let's start reducing that now. So I've got to take this branch off here. I'll take it back to here, like that. This one back to here, like that. I've got a long vertical one here. I'll have to take that back. I'll take it back to here, like that. I've got kind of a long vertical one out the back here. That will need reducing back. It has a fairly straight section here, so I'm going to have to take it back to, I think here, like that. I've got a branch hanging down here, one vertically and one out the center. So I'm going to take that drooping branch off, like that. I'm going to reduce this one back to this branch here, like that. And I'm going to take that vertical section off here, like that. So I'm always keeping my profile in mind. That's why I'm putting my hands up here to see what needs pruning, because once these branches start greening up again, it'll start filling out the rounded profile. I've got a branch kind of growing up here. It's all right. I'm just going to reduce it back to here. I've got two branches kind of sticking up here. I'm just going to have to prune those back shorter. They're kind of tall and vertical. There's one there and one there. Like that. I'm going to start working on this side now, getting that reduced back. So again, I've got a long straight branch here. I'm going to prune that off quite short here. Remember, you can always grow these branches out again. And I want that, you know, movement and change of taper and direction in the branch. I don't want big, long, straight sections to the branches. So this one needs to be reduced back. Come back to here, like that. And now I've got the branches out the back. So I've got a branch that comes up. I'm wondering if I should just prune it off there. I've actually, from the front view, these two branches, this one's almost directly behind this one. It would be better to prune it off here and just keep this part of the branch. More than likely, you know, something will grow up vertically there in the future, but I think that's where I've got to take that off. Even this branch is kind of confusing with the one behind it. I may have to sort that out. Yeah, I definitely don't like this vertical section, so I'm taking that off here. So here I go, like that. And then, let me have a look from the front again. I think I'm going to take this branch off shorter so it doesn't interfere with the one behind. I kind of want something fanning out in this direction, so yeah, I think I need something coming out the front here. I'm going to take it back to here, like that. That kind of gives me the basic structure for a, you know, the broom style canopy on here. Here's a look at the jade now. I'll rotate it around. So yeah, I think the front, instead of being there, will be slightly on the angle about there, making this branch kind of centered between the two back ones. I'll rotate it around so you can see what it looks like. I finished the pruning on the jade. I'll just bring you in close so you can see some of the previous cuts I made to the tree and how they've healed over. Last time I pruned the tree, I took a big branch off here and you can see it's healed over really nicely. I've also taken a large branch off the bottom of the trunk here. That's healed over really nicely too. The next steps for this tree will be to let all the new branches and foliage grow in, filling it out, creating a more compact tree. It should look quite nice when all the foliage is out. That's all for today. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.